Amanda Jones composed the score of the middle episode of the Home documentary series on Apple TV Plus about people's homes. Now, in your episode, the husband, Anthony, he talks about how whatever your eye sees first is incredibly important because that's what sets the mood and the tone. I'm wondering if you have a similar philosophy when it comes to music.
Oh, that's interesting. I think definitely as the music draws you in, as you're kind of first experiencing those first few notes, I do think they're important. I feel like it needs to be, I feel like depending on the application, whether it's for something like home, where it's, we're looking at a space that's really delicate. And I feel like the cinematography, you kind of have to mirror what's happening with that. So I feel like the shots are very slow and kind of like gradual, and it's like kind of like an awakening and unfurling in a lot of those shots. So I feel like the music kind of needs to like lead in the listener just as like those shots are like leading us into the next room. So I feel like there's like kind of like a delicate way that we're leading the listener and the viewer into these spaces. And I feel like they definitely need to complement one another for sure.
Now, we're doing this chat because you have just been nominated for an Emmy in the category of Best Documentary Score. How did you find out about that?
Uh, it was pretty exciting. It was at like 8:30 in the morning Pacific Standard Time, and my publicist called, and it was the first person. I was still in bed, and she called me, and I was like, "Hello," and she was like, "Guess what? You've just been nominated for an Emmy." And I was like, "Are you serious?" That's so cool. And then immediately after, my mom called me because she was watching like the Leslie Jones's like reveal of all the different
Okay,
nominees.
yeah.
And so yeah, then I had like a really long conversation with my mom. And then my phone was blowing up, and it was like kind of this like snowball throughout the day of just excitement and congratulations. And it was a beautiful experience. It's funny, I just finished watching Ryan Murphy's Hollywood on Netflix, and they had there's similar scenes in the in the series, and I thought it was kind of like fanciful, and I was like, oh, I wonder if this is like what it's like when you get nominated for an award. And it was exactly the same. It's like I just watched it like 2 days before, and I was like, whoa, this is so surreal.
What about when you found out, like, did your publicist say what show is actually for? Because you've been working on so
Yes,
many
it was
this past
4
season.
categories. Yeah. Yeah, she let me know it was for home, and I was like, that's so amazing. And what's interesting is the category. It's like outstanding music for a documentary series or special. It's very new, and I think it was I forget who it was, but another composer had mentioned that they had created this category because a lot of women are doing documentaries. It was like a way to have more women become nominated, so it's working. And I think there's 3 like Pinar Toprak, I hope I'm saying her name correctly, Laura Cartman, and myself are nominated in that same category. So I think that's like the most ever, in a singular category. So it's very exciting. And I'm happy there's like, steps being taken with the Television Academy to, just bring more voices in, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, my theory was always that, fiction had been winning the category for years, and then finally a documentary beat all of them. They said, whoa, 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 okay, you guys off to your own category.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, I think the doc category is really important.
And what does it mean to be the first Black woman to be nominated in a score category at the Emmys?
This is huge. It's definitely historic in so many ways. But I feel like what's most important is just to kind of continue, like, to hope this isn't just like a blip in history. I'm definitely of the personality. I'm like very much an activist, so I just want to make sure that there's like more, like, Black women, more Black men, more just like more diverse voices, all different cultures that are able to be nominated and win in these categories. So I feel like I can't believe firsts are still happening in 2020, but I think it's like a really important thing to do whatever I can from like a mentorship, activist perspective to hopefully like guide the next generation to experience what I've experienced. I feel like that's just so important. So I'm excited. It means so many things, but I feel like the biggest thing it means is that there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to be done, and yeah, we just got to keep pushing, yeah, for more voices, yeah, more than just one.
Okay, now going back, how did you come onto this project, Home?
Yeah, so I was first approached by the Apple Music TV team, and they let me know they had this main episode, and they were looking for a composer who would specifically lean into like a songwriter sensibility, which is very exciting. And having come from like performing in bands, and it was like an exciting project to hop on since I had been working on a lot of different types of projects that were like more orchestral or like hip hop driven. So for this, it was an opportunity to kind of get back to my roots as a guitarist and vocalist, and kind of put together a band arrangement. So those initial conversations was like, yeah, we'd love for you to just kind of like lean into that vibe for this. And then after speaking with Doug and Colin, they kind of were like echoing the similar thing, and it was just really exciting that I got to be like my true artistic self for this like Apple TV series in this episode. So yeah, I just got to be just like myself, which is really, really beautiful, and I'm grateful for that experience. Yeah.
Yeah, they had largely different crews for the episodes. Do you know why they didn't use you for more of them?
Yeah, so it's similar with like Chef's Table. I think they had a different composer for each episode, but I think, yeah, I mean, definitely for my episode, and likely for the others, it was very much, it was very ambitious in some ways. Like I definitely felt like I was creating like an album for that episode. It was like very unconventional for me, like in terms of like just previous scoring projects. I wasn't just kind of creating something to, uh, you know, it was more than just supporting the picture. It was really kind of, it was okay for me to create music that these cues were kind of, in your face and overwhelming at times, because I feel like because of like the way it's directed and the way the cinematography looks, I feel like wasn't very much dialogue. It was okay for the music to be at the forefront for certain scenes, which takes time to kind of create something that can really stand on its own. And I feel like because Apple TV, there's Apple Music, they knew they wanted to do a soundtrack. I feel like they definitely wanted these songs to feel like they could stand alone on the soundtrack as well. And so I imagine the other episodes had a similar amount of work. So they just wanted, and also each location is very distinct. Like we have Mexico, I think we have like India, we have Sweden. So I think they wanted each episode to have a very distinct feel. And I think the easiest way to achieve that is to have a different voice, a different musician to kind of create that sonic space. So
Yeah, the track that they were really pushing was this one called House Being Built. So could you talk about that one?
yeah, that one was so much fun. So um, let's see, for that one, I enlisted a couple string players to do like extended technique on their instrument, which is kind of having them perform in an unconventional way. So like tapping the body of it, making like weird percussive noises, or like bouncing the bow on the bridge, on the neck, and just like making just weird noises with their instruments, kind of like avant-garde. But then, so I took those like recordings they like sent me, and then I created like a percussive bed from those. So like chopped it up, created like this like really cool percussive bed, and then I kind of like built the score on top of that. And the music kind of is like this like folky, like ethereal, like indie pop vibes. um, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, we have drums on there. We have Roland Juno 60 on there. I'm using a lot of like native instruments, like machine, like DJ producer elements too, to kind of like create these like pads and noises. And then yeah, we have strings on there. I play guitar, bass, and piano on there. I play all the instruments for the score except for drums and strings. And yeah, that was like a really beautiful cue. I love it. I love just kind of how it accented. I had like the string players like accent certain moments, like when we're panning around the room, and like there's like a time lapsed shot of like the sun kind of like setting in one of the rooms, and I have like the violinist just like doing this crazy like tremolo pattern to like complement it. It was just like so much fun. There's so much to play around with the way they shot it. It's just like such eye candy, and I feel like there's so much ear candy that could complement the eye candy. So that was a lot of fun to write for that cue.
What kind of a timeline do you have on something like this?
Um, Let me think about that. I think I had about a month, like 3 to 4 weeks. Um, yeah, to kind of like crank it out and make sure it was perfect. Yeah.
So this episode, it does take place in Maine, but it also has elements from Japan and I think they said colonial times. How do you incorporate those kinds of aspects into your score?
Yeah, so that was actually part of the initial brief from Apple Music. They definitely wanted like the main setting and like the Japan setting to feel very distinct, but somehow kind of create some through line musically. So um, that was like those were the first two kind of cues I created, like the cold open, like the very first thing you see, and then the Japan scenes because I wanted to like kind of show them this is how these settings will sound. And so like the main setting is very much like very warm, like folky environment. And the Japan setting is like very like angular, sharper, like the instrumentation is a little more intense, more synths, and very like poppy and bubbly. um, and then we kind of hear a reprise. So when we go to Japan, this is where Anthony, meets his mentor on learning the burn board method, which is like a really important aspect of the soot house. This is like how the siding is made and how the roof is made, and it's a practice from traditional Japan that has been around for like hundreds of years, maybe longer, and so this is something that's like a really important moment when we go to Japan. He meets his mentor and he's like practicing this method with him on the beach. And the first opening shot in the beginning of the episode, he's doing this burn board method in Maine. And then in Japan, we see him doing it in Japan on the beach. And so those cues are related and they're kind of like this interesting reprise of each other. But the Japan cue still very much feels like Japan. The opening is very much like Maine. So it was fun to like create distinctive sounds for both settings, but when there was a connection between the two, it was really awesome just to kind of like weave in those like sonic ideas to like show the connection of like, oh, this is like his mentor and this is where he's learned this method that's like kind of like seminal for him. So it's exciting.
Now, I thought this episode kind of had a twist ending in that we spend, this half hour on this house, and then at the end they say, actually, it's too small. We have to make a new one. Uh, and I felt like that was actually not really underscored, by the score. So I'm wondering what went into that decision.
Yeah, so the last cue that you hear is kind of like, I know it's kind of like this cool like vibe thing that would kind of closes this out, but I feel like it works. It kind of feels like there's like this determination inside of Anthony. It's like yeah, now we have more kids and we need more space, and we're going to kind of continue to build our compound. Um, and so for me, that final cue is kind of like, here we go. We're gonna like he can do this, and we're like there's a kind of like a cool vibe and groove to it. Just like Anthony can do this. Julie's amazing, and their family's beautiful, and they've got this new challenge ahead of them where they're gonna like continue to build and just employ these really awesome architectural techniques in this remote area. But yeah, I love that last cue. I think it's like there's like a determination to it that I think encapsulates like what they're feeling, what they're going for.
So you're an Emmy nominee now. You're still a rising star, I guess, in the film, television, music industry. I'm wondering if there were any television scores that really stood out to you and inspired you as you were growing up.
Let me think about that for a second. I really just recently I love Labyrinth score for Euphoria. Ugh, I love their use of voice and as a texture. So yeah, he's amazing. But I'm probably more inspired by film scores. So I really love like Under the Skin. I think Mika Levy did that. Um, Emil Mosseri did like Last Black Man of San Francisco. He's absolutely incredible. And then if we go just way back to like, our childhood or just like amazing folks like Ennio Morricone, John Williams, John Powell. I think I really enjoy, yeah, just like the epicness of film scores, and I love working on projects like Home where I can really just like have a lot of fun, and the music isn't just kind of like wallpaper. It's like really this like full complete idea, and you find that a lot in film, and we're seeing it more and more in television, which is exciting. So I think that's kind of like my tip. I kind of just like enjoy like, you know, music that is just this, it's something that like surrounds you and envelopes you and just like it's this whole like surreal experience and you find yourself just like daydreaming away for a while because the song is like so amazing. So I typically gravitate towards scores that are really like surreal and just like kind of like suspend you in this amazing space. That's kind of like dream.
All right, Amanda, well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat. We look forward to whatever you have coming up next. And to our viewers, please check out our other interviews with Emmy nominees on our YouTube channel.